4, 3, 2, 1. I told you before to be careful where you put your legs.
I was only trying to be helpful.
I could help myself. What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on. What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on.
For 7 decades, Michael Caine has been among the world's most renowned and recognisable actors.
It was just what I needed. A 1-inch god with a 2-inch penis.
The star of classics like Zulu, The Man Who Would Be King, and The Cider House Rules.
It's a miracle no one was killed.
But also films that brought his career to the brink of complete implosion.
I made a mistake.
Somehow, he has always found a way back.
You're a big man, but you're in bad shape. With me, it's a full-time job.
In this epic podcast series, we will watch and review every Michael Caine movie, from the greatest hits...
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off!
...to the incredible misses.
You failed to maintain your weapon, son.
And take a deep dive into the life and work of one of the world's most recognisable film stars.
His name is Michael Caine, and no one will forget his name.
To understand how he has made the mark of Caine.
Well, you all settled in? Right, we can begin. For God's sake, come in!
Hello and welcome to the Mark of Caine, our ongoing prod and poke at the filmography of Michael Caine, watching every single movie from the greats to the absolute stinkers and the ones in between, of which there have kind of been remarkably few so far. My name is Michael Foley and I'm joined as always by Stephen Black of the Mallow News Twitter account. How are you doing?
I'm not going to lie to you, I've been better. This
no.
podcast is like a kind of a degenerative disease that every time you think you have an up, you think, oh, well, there's no symptoms this week. Maybe the new drugs are working.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last time with the Man Who Would Be King, you could go, the new regimen, they got it working, and then it's back to, all the symptoms reappear. You're sluggish. Stools are loose, lethargic.
Yeah.
Fucking Peeper,
I swear to God. I know, I have to say, normally in these scenarios where we go from...
Normally my stools are always loose.
They're always loose. Nothing new there. Normally in these scenarios where we go from a classic to, standard, I wouldn't say this isn't standard anything. It's just bad. Yeah. But, in this scenario, I'm the one who comes on here going, what's going on with his career? I think I'm growing. I'm kind of just going, you know what? This is what happens with him. Just enjoy.
But do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? You're just numb. You're like you're like a hooker's been on the game for years. You feel nothing. You're on your back, legs akimbo in the air, doing the shopping list in your head while punter after punter leaves their love deposit in you, and that's just the way it is now. There's no sensation there anymore. You might as well be paralysed below the waist.
There's nothing. I certainly feel screwed after watching Peeper, that's for sure. From the sunlit uplands of The Man Who Would Be King down into the dark valleys below of Peeper. Bad stuff. It's Michael Caine, again, indulging his affection for film noir. We're just going to get into this. Playing a cockney private investigator, 1940s LA. He's here with an old flame, Natalie Wood, and one of the lads from Blazing Saddles. It's complicated. It's meant to be funny and dramatic and some kind of homage to the films that Caine knew and loved. But is it any of those things? This is Peeper.
Back in 47, L.A. was some kind of a town. In those days, a dive was a joint. A torpedo might croak you. And dames didn't take lip from love. A gun was a Roscoe. A private eye was a Peeper. And Leslie Tucker was on the toughest case of his career.
You mean you haven't looked for your daughter since 1918?
I've been busy! Tucker knew his client was a tough customer, but he didn't know that a faded photo and a shady story would lead him on a trail drenched in blue blood and blackmail.
Get lost! Get lost!
I am lost.
20th Century Fox presents a Robert Chartoff and Irwin Winkler production. Michael Caine and Natalie Wood.
This is how I always hoped it would be. Being a private eye,
Sigh. Well, where do you want to go with this?
I don't know where you go with this, to be honest. If you can listen to the trailer, you get an idea that this is for the worst offense, this is nothing. As you say, it just gives you no sensation. The worst thing a film could do is just leave you with no feelings other than resentment. I suppose really of time being wasted. This goes
Absolutely.
It's a comedy that isn't funny. It's a spoof that isn't spoofy. It's just a plot that thinks it's complicated, but it's just incomprehensible. We start with the opening. I mean, it opens in a dark alley with this kind of baffling monologue delivered by the same Humphrey Bogart impersonator that starred with him in Pulp.
Mm-hmm.
I just to kind of rip off the terrible dialogue here. It's clear that this is going to be a trip down memory lane. Only everyone has dementia.
So we have our Bogart.
This movie. We've already in there. We've got our reference to Pulp, and then there's a bit. Imagine having a callback to Too Late the Hero as a nod and a wink to an audience of 2 or 3 people that actually know what the fuck is happening.
Incredible.
That'd be like us having callbacks in this podcast. What's the point of it? Who the fuck is listening? For the 2 lads that actually will remember what happened in the previous, people skip just to the ones they know. So I mean, it's a completely pointless exercise. Even the book this was even based on a book. Somebody wrote this.
Yeah.
As a book.
And what was the name of the book? They
decided to Pulp. Or sorry, not Pulp. Deadfall.
The old Caine film. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just fucking god awful, dreadful.
It's dreadful. Just to jump
dialogue.
back.
Oh my God.
Just to jump back to that Too Late the Hero call out. It's just very briefly to put the meat of the bone on the bones of that. It's the worst. It's the worst name for a butler ever as well. Trevor. So Trevor the butler, who's Japanese.
Do we not go to school with a Trevor Butler, no?
Possibly did. So Japanese Trevor, anyway, is the butler in this. It doesn't matter whose butler he is. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, it's like
It's a Caine's greatest shits. It's Caine's greatest shits. It's all the shit things about Caine in this. It's fucking reminders of the shit movies that he's made.
Yeah.
Bad decision, bad direction.
Yeah.
Wooden performances. I mean, not only wood by name, wood by nature. But she's fucking brutal in this. That I could see more chemistry in a fucking plague pit. I'd say Jimmy Savile, on one of his many rumoured visits to morgues, would have had more chemistry with the corpses that he encountered than Michael Caine has with Natalie Wood in this fucking film.
Do you not think keeping in mind that Caine and Natalie Wood would have dated back in the Gambit days in the mid-60s briefly, do you not think he's kind of... Because I thought actually, this was filmed... Okay, so it comes out at the end of 1975, but it was actually filmed in 1974, right? Now, I was looking back at, he looks very well in this, I think. Actually, he looked healthy, a hell of a lot healthier than he did in the other movies around 1974. Do you not think he's kind of trying to, you know the way you meet your old flame, you kind of want to put your best side out?
I don't know what he was doing off camera, but he certainly wasn't. That wasn't translating it on camera.
It on camera.
I'd say they have about 5 minutes screen time in total throughout this movie. And it's an 87-minute movie that feels like 2 hours.
Oh, Jesus. It certainly does, yeah.
Every time, the dialogue is so dead and so not even close to the kind of noir dialogue that it's like Raymond Chandler after a rake of ketamine. It's just... it doesn't know what it is. It's terrible. It's like a photocopy of a photocopy. It's just degraded. It's just not anywhere near as good as the original. And if you're not going to be as good as or able to spoof it adequately, then don't fucking do it at all.
It falls between. No, sorry. This is even giving it too much credit to say it falls between two stools. It's like Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Steve Martin kind of piss take of noir. That's a good. That's what it's going. I think that's almost what it's going for, but it doesn't get there because it's kind of going, well, we want to be a bit dramatic as well, and we want to have a bit of that going on, and it just doesn't get there at all. It's terrible. It's one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. And at this point, maybe it's time to do the plot. Will I just do the plot and we can start getting really cross then after that?
Do you know what? I nearly tell you to do the plot from Wikipedia because it's clear. Even the person who wrote the Wikipedia page was so disinterested by this movie that they managed to rattle off the plot. Yeah. And they give up by the time they get to what happens at the end.
I think you'll find that my plot outline is very, very similar to the Wikipedia one. Not for want of plagiarism, although do you know what? That might be the way to go. But yeah, you mentioned there it's 87 minutes long, and we've talked about this before with Caine movies. You can kind of gauge your interest in the Caine movie how often you check the time and the bottom, how long is left. And also how many sittings sometimes you watch. I watched this, I think, in about 7 sittings. I could not go longer than about 10 minutes without going, I think I want to gouge my eyes out with a blunt spoon.
Yeah, so for anyone who hasn't listening who hasn't seen this, maybe the right time to watch this is maybe Christmas Day when you be going to the Jacks maybe 6 or 7 times anyway. So
exactly. Have the tablet set up in the Jacks. In you go, 10 minutes out you be. I tell you, it'll speed everything up. Right, the plot for Peeper. It's fucking dreadful. Caine plays Tucker, who's a private investigator. That Peeper, that's the Peeper by name. That's apparently 1940s lingo for a private investigator. He's a private investigator who gets hired by a criminal who's on the run, who's trying to find his long lost daughter. Anyway, and give her a large sum of cash. So Tucker's investigating leads him to these 2 sisters, one of whom is Natalie Wood, and their mother is this rich Beverly Hills widow. So Tucker reckons that one of the sisters is the man's daughter. And meanwhile, while all that's going on, 2 guys who are trying to kill this criminal turn their attentions to Tucker. Plus, it turns out that the Beverly Hills widow's brother-in-law, the girl's uncle, might also be trying to blackmail both girls and maybe also trying to embezzle money from the widow.
Whoa. What the fuck is wrong with your finger?
What?
Oh, sorry. Like they look like a wrinkled penis finger. Whatever that you jab towards the screen there.
I cut my finger and wearing a plaster.
How big was the cut?
Pretty big. I sliced it with a very sharp knife. It's no fun. There was stitches.
Talk to somebody. Just talk to somebody. This constant bloodletting is not going to solve your long-term problems.
You may be right. All I was trying to do was slice some garlic bread. You
can't see what I see now, but he's topless and he's torso and it's like a patchwork quilt of scars.
I'm not.
Everyone tells a tale.
I call this one Davy Fitz. I have to say the plaster does make it look a bit like Edward Penis Finger. All right, looks like you were doing a pretty messed up circumcision at that.
What else is like you said, lads? We can't afford the Disney Plus subscription, so I'm going to do my own homemade ET.
Oh Jesus Christ! Do you know what? That was a very nice. To be fair, thank you for that little intermission because I think we needed it from that bloody plot. Right, where was I? Oh yeah. So maybe your man's embezzling the widow. Blah blah blah. Right. Tucker also keeps meeting this guy Billy Pate, who's played by Liam Dunn, who's the Reverend in Blazing Saddles. You know, he looks about 100, but he's actually only about like 50 odd in this film. Anyway, Billy Pate might be working for the brother-in-law. It's hard to know. He seems to kind of know more.
It's not hard to know. It's just hard to care.
It's hard to care. Yeah. Anyway, I'm at the end. Okay. At the end of it all of these people end up on the cruise ship. And it turns out that Natalie Wood is not the criminal's daughter, but she tries to steal the big ball of money anyway and fails. And that's pretty much it. It's a total mess from top to bottom. There's absolutely no redeeming features in this film whatsoever. Caine, in my opinion, does his best with what's there. If you compare it to Pulp, I think he narrates it like Pulp.
I would say
he's slightly better at narrating.
I'd say in Pulp, in fairness, at least he's the benefit of being potentially 3 sheets to the wind for most of the filming. Whereas in this, it seemed less so. But I mean, the dialogue is so terrible. Like, because it's so sub-Chandler-esque, people take 20 minutes to say 5 minutes worth of fucking dialogue, you know?
Yeah, it's terrible. Just to jump
and everybody seems like they're acting in a different movie. Like the guy playing Anglich, the criminal who's trying to give this briefcase of cash to his to the daughter he gave up for adoption. Mm-hmm. It's like he's doing a school panto.
Yeah,
just turns out it's bursts into a romance. Just starts talking.
I would not advise anybody to try and find this film. Right?
Don't bother your arse. No.
But if you are, fooling around on YouTube or whatever, just search Peeper, and if you can find a couple of minutes of a clip, just have a look. Because it's beyond belief.
Even the name of the fucking thing, even the nary thing is peeped. No, nothing's peeped. Nobody peeps anything. And if you hear Peeper, the first thing you think is, all right, somebody nosy or somebody, some fucking pervert. Yeah. There's nothing. It's a terrible. Even the name is fucking terrible.
And the point to be made about so Peeper, like as I was saying before, in LA lingo, is the private investigator, right? That's fine. Okay, grand.
Yeah, but this is made in 19. This film was made in 1974. So who the fuck was going on? Peeper. What do you know? What do you see?
Yeah, I know, but it's trying to be noirish and all that, right? But I know. But the other thing is the original name for this film when it was made in 1974, and it's the name that Caine referred to it in interviews afterwards, was Fat Chance. Well, close enough. Fat chance. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
Nothing. But again,
Nothing.
Peeper is nothing.
Absolutely nothing. In fact, I mean, this isn't even fleshy Caine. He's good, as I say. He's looking very well. He's got the haircut. He looks fresh and well. I mean, it's nothing to do with anything.
No.
Just to kind of put a bit of shape and make on this, just to jump back very, very briefly, like your Humphrey Bogart reference quite rightly. It's at the start. He does the opening credits. He just, rather than having opening credits.
But why?
I don't know.
Why?
Like, why is right. I don't know.
It's not funny. It's not funny hearing somebody read off a list of fucking names.
No, it's pointless. Totally and utterly pointless. The motivation, maybe we'll just get to Caine's performance now. Like, the motivation for this, according to Caine himself, was Natalie Wood, and also Natalie Wood. To get to work with her and kind of hang out with her again.
Because he was out with her, so it's clear that Natalie at some stage did.
Yeah.
So why? I mean, he went out with her.
Yeah.
So clearly she did. So why is he not going back? Is he open to she would again?
I think it's more professional at this stage. He's married to Shakira. Oh. They've got kids. You know, he's a very happily married man. Very happily married.
Based on this performance, I do think there was anything drawing you back to fucking to act with her. To be honest with you, I like it really bad that the whole movie, the whole denouement. That's a French word for shit ending.
Okay.
He's on a ship because he goes, oh Jesus, yeah.
I know that was a bit. Well, they wouldn't have known it at the time, I guess. But looking back now,
obviously not.
A bit close to the bone.
It would have been even weirder if they knew.
Well, that would have been.
Think there was some sort of conspiracy.
Indeed, it would. Maybe I hope they were. I wonder were they brought into the investigation? So a number of years later, when poor Natalie Wood met her sad demise, drowning off the back of a boat.
You couldn't sound more cheery when you said that.
I swear, I didn't intend to. I have to say, and this is very knuckle draggy. Maybe this.
And now to our death notices. Oh,
Natalie Wood.
3 people tragically killed.
And you know what? They'll never really get to the bottom of it. Maybe this sounds very knuckle draggy, but I have to. And you're quite right. She's terrible in film, but Natalie Wood is just stunning on screen. I haven't really, outside of Rebel Without a Cause, I don't know that I've ever really seen another Natalie Wood film.
West Side Story?
I see. I'm not into musicals and stuff, so I wouldn't have watched it. But she's just amazing looking. But she's very poor. It's very, very poor. The film was filmed
the next time you go cut yourself, I think when you're letting out the pain, maybe think about all your repressed homophobia. I'm not into musical. Just pump some more iron there. Oh yeah, I love the sports. That's why for no other reason. I'm not covering up any deep dark secrets. I just love sports so much. That's why I pursued a career in sports journalism.
I didn't know. I didn't realize.
How much do you bench, Mick? How much do you bench?
I'd say a small rolling pin. I'd say about it. I didn't realize there was so much weight attached to the liking or not liking of musicals. But there we go.
Everybody knows about it. It's a thing. It's a fact.
Fair enough.
No
again, I'm learning every day doing this thing. This thing was filmed mostly in Los Angeles, but they did the cruise ship that you mentioned. They took the cruise ship to Mexico. Caine made the point. This is a direct quote. I mean, he actually spoke about this film. We called it all the Caribbean ports, he said. It was like a lot of films. You have the time of your life making it, but it didn't work out at all. I think it's just like a lot of your movies, Mick.
I think specifically, yeah. So essentially, he just did it for the free cruise.
He did it for the free cruise.
Is he aware now at this stage of his...
That was it.
Is he aware now at this stage of his career that the money he earns can be used to purchase cruises?
He could actually afford a large yacht. In fact, he probably, maybe, I don't know. You don't want to check it out.
No, because I'd imagine there's probably some long fucking story about Laurence Olivier telling him, dear boy, never buy a boat. And from that day on, I never did.
Or something like the time he bought the Merc when he couldn't drive, or the Rolls Royce or whatever, because he couldn't drive or something, because and he didn't drive because the insurance would have been too high because he didn't have a driver's license, so he just hired a driver instead of the driver, or something ridiculous like that. Accent Caine, only one small, obviously he plays again, I mean, a cockney private eye in 1940s LA. I mean, it's so tenuous, but he does a Telegram from Mongo impression halfway through it, where he's kind of pretending to be an American, actually with a telegram at the door, which is kind of Telegram from Mongo. It's pretty bad. Sports Caine, not much. There's a vigorous fight scene, all right. It's kind of like kids wrestling,
and it's deliberately shot poorly so that you can't see that it's not the actors, it's the stunt performers, and then it's the fucking chase scene at the end involving the lifeboat. The score is very heavy on it, and then there are some sound effects, and there's clearly dialogue, but they've included to cut that out to make it like some sort of deformed, stroke-addled, limpy corpse of a fucking silent movie parody. Like,
yeah, that's right.
And it's just happening, and coherent rage. No, actually, I've got to the stage.
Well, let me just pick up the cudgel as you drop it, and just drop to your knees and put your hands in your head, put your head in your hands for about the sixth time already.
Basically, as my arms suffer from fatigue as I beat the corpse with the fucking baseball bat. I hand it over to you so you can take over.
The music, right? So the music is noirish for about half the film, but somewhere during it they just go, "Oh, fuck this." So you end up with this sort of sub streets of San Francisco background music during some of the action scenes. Similarly, everybody, and we talked about this, I think, with the last Valley way back, about the Brian Jones pudding bowl haircut that you always see in those late 60s films, for where one guy just refuses to get his hair cut so he fits into whatever era it needs to be. Similarly here, everybody's in 1940s gear, but then when they get to the cruise ship, it turns into the frickin' Love Boat. Everybody has like sideburns and shaggy hair, and there's flares, and it's not like those kind of 1940s flapper pants. They're proper bell bottoms and like 70s suits with the big wide lapels and all that. It's just like, what we've all given up at this stage now. Totally and utterly given up. Sorry, Stephen is still on his hands and knees with his head in his hands, beating the ground.
I'm just trying to massage some life back into my arms before I go around to administering more death blows to the head. I think this is probably the most classically 70s looking movie that he's done. To me, it looked like an awful lot like the color and the whatever film that they were using. This sounds very. I don't want to get too technical, but the way it looked,
yeah.
I thought it was. This is a real Richard Donner's Superman vibe to it. I mean, even Caine is dressed almost exactly like Jimmy Olsen or Clark Kent or in that movie.
Yeah,
it looks real look and feel at that. Of course, again, without that movie managed to have more wit in its dialogue between its characters in the first 5 minutes than this manages to get through in its entire 87 minutes.
Just when it just jumps into my head there, we should have a very, very quick word about the director, Peter Hyams.
Yes.
Of Peeper, Peter Hyams, yes. The director said, "It managed to combine critical and commercial failure, and that made me colder than ice. Nobody wanted me." It was a huge, it was a disaster on all sorts of levels, particularly for Peter Hyams. However, he did go on to direct Capricorn 1. With OJ.
Time
OJ
Cop.
Simpson. Time Cop. Do you want to know an interesting kind of factoid about
Running Scared? Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. Great show.
Yeah, that is. Is that the one with Michael McDonald's song?
And feed shine on me. No more. We'll have to pay the estate. Okay. Outland, which is a much maligned and I guess overlooked Sean Connery movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
tied it back. There's a callback now for you that many people will find interesting to the last week's podcast on The Man Who Would Be King. Indeed,
and an in-house reference, you'd almost say.
Yeah. The scriptwriter who adapted the book also wrote the Body Snatchers remake, the 70s remake with Jeff Goldblum and Donald Sutherland. He also wrote Stealth, which, if you've ever seen it, is one of the worst movies ever. I think one of the worst movies of the last 20 years is Jessica Biel and if not Bradley Cooper, a Bradley Cooper-esque person, and Jamie Foxx. Have you seen that?
I have not.
It's about a stealth aircraft that is powered by AI. But don't you know? Spoiler: it goes evil.
No way, it goes rogue.
I think that movie ends in the kind of a fight at the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea.
Oh, for the love of God! Like, I mean, really. I mean, sometimes you know the way you go. I don't know whether you did this or not, but I watch movies sometimes and go, wow, I wonder how that got into production. Like, I mean, it must be so hard to get a movie made. And then you look at some of them and go, some guy just piled a load of shit. It was like the way Bowie used to write lyrics at one point. You know, he just kind of take random phrases and put them all together and try and make something. It's like that. Okay, I'm gonna pick something from the location.
Are you referring to David Bowie's use of the William Burroughs cut and paste technique for writing lyrics, Michael?
Yeah, I think you are. So yeah, I'm going to take one from the location bucket, South Korea. Now I'm going to take one from the large machinery bucket, stealth bomber. You know, and now I'm going to take one from the the B-list actor, Jessica Biel. And now I need someone, a bit of diversity, Jamie Foxx. And we'll put them all together and it'll be, it's like, what the fuck, how do these things get made? Sorry, I want to go back to Peter Hyams for just 1 second. An interesting little factoid about Peter Hyams. So he directed Capricorn 1, stars O.J. Simpson. He also directed a guy called Robert Blake in a film called Busting. Now, Busting came out before Peeper. Actually, Busting was so good. They liked, the guys, the producers of Peeper liked how Hyams had kind of, directed comedy.
Would you say that Busting made them feel good?
I would. Elliot Gould was in that as well. Elliot Gould, who we'll be seeing very, very shortly in another Caine film. But before we get to that, anyway, so Busting, okay. Robert Blake, like OJ, was also acquitted of his wife's murder. Yeah, acquitted of his wife's murder. So Hyams has the dubious honour of having directed two star actors who were both acquitted of their wife's murder. Actually, Tarantino dedicated his novelization of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to Robert Blake. And if my memory serves me right, didn't Brad Pitt character in that film also kill his wife?
Yep.
There we go. Anyway, back to Caine. Back to this incomprehensible puke.
Just to point out as well, obviously, as we all know, that there's the chances of Hollywood actors participating and getting away with murder is quite high. So many directors would possibly had directed movies with multiple murders in them.
Indeed.
Long may they continue to do so and uphold that proud Hollywood tradition.
And so say all of us. Anything else in this? There's a nighttime chase, a car chase scene that ends in a traffic jam. No, I'm just going to. I know.
I got a call time in this year. We've talked about it.
I don't want to say that it was a very good idea. It was very badly put together. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, that's it. Very bad idea and very badly put together. There you go. That's your
yeah.
That's your synopsis.
Hey, the reviews do we even need to? Like, it generally gets panned or sort of I think it just kind of rolls over people. It was a complete flop, completely forgotten about. Came out at the end of 1975. It was put on the shelf in 1974, brought out in late 1975 on the back of the success of Chinatown and Farewell My Lovely and this notion that noir films were back in. But I think the key thing that they missed there was that those other two films were good. That was the key. I'd
imagine what they were doing. I mean, The Long Goodbye came out a year or 2 years beforehand. The Long Goodbye was in 1973. And that's one of the best modern noir films of all, like classic movies. So yeah, there was a kind of trend for the moment. This again did, I imagine, did the same thing that happens when there's a trend. There's always like 3 or 4 good movies, and then there's one that just kills it. It's like, we're all enjoying these. We're all enjoying these noir movies, and then this comes out, and you're like, no, this isn't for me anymore.
No, it's time has passed. And I mean, we're Caine. It's about Natalie Wood. It's about getting on the cruise ship and having a bit of fun. We spoke about his affection for noir. Look, Humphrey Bogart, the favorite actor. The opening scene in $1 Billion Brain, which was kind of very noirish. Pulp, obviously. And now another noir film. They're just apart from the opening scene of $1 Billion Brain, which I wouldn't even put in the same league as this. Not the point. Both Pulp, certainly to my, well, look, I'm not a fan of noir really. Anyway, I'm not really into. I don't get all that hard boiled dialogue and fine, whatever. But no, to be honest with you, we have watched 2 absolutely atrocious noir films. So I mean, what else are we going to think? What are we going to do? Right, where are we? Is it time for marks for Caine?
Yeah.
Where we are marking the performance rather than the movie, which gets minus 4,000. So what are you thinking?
3.
Yeah, I was giving him a generous 4, but I go with 3. It's just, I do think he's. Oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this. Like Pulp is a better film, but I think in some regards, Caine is kind of better in this. He's doing more with far less. But it's still poor.
I think there's only so many times you can clean up the mess he's left on the rug before you really need to start seriously considering about bringing him to the vet. Yeah. It's
time now. It is time. But here's the thing: we're a long way away from him stopping messing the rug. He's going to continue to mess the rug. We're in the middle. Like, does it feel like this?
I know he's at the age where you kind of go, well, this kind of happens at that time of life. Like.
Yeah, well, we're getting there. Does it feel to you now? Like, I mean, we're in the middle of the 70s, so he's just like, it was 23 movies in the 70s. This is about number 12 or 13. We're so far down the Andy Dufresne tube of shit that we can't see behind us and we can't see in front of us, and we are just moving through films now. Does it feel like that to you?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't quite developed a taste for shit, but at the same time, we've just stopped vomiting.
Yeah. I'm smelling it, but it's not quite registering the way it did early on with me now.
Yeah,
it's the mid 70s, and it's like, my God, he's in Hollywood and he's doing this. And next up, we move into 1976, and it's another movie lost to posterity before we went looking, digging and poking around the grave. Harry and Walter go to New York.
After we bust that bank, we're going to be eating lunch here for the rest of our lives.
I know nothing of it, but it's got Elliot Gould in it. It's got Diane Keaton in it, and it's got James Caan in it. It's comedy, apparently. That's kind of heavyweight mid-70s, isn't it?
It is, but it's also got comedy, which is like the warning, stranger danger. It's the alert. It's the red flag when we're talking about Mick Caine. Like, it's going to go, oh no. You hear the cast, but it's a comedy. Kind of go, oh no, sorry, no, not for me. But unfortunately, it will be for us. I think
his comedy chops have definitely improved during the 70s, though, and he's delivering it. But like, he's definitely improved. He's definitely improved as a comedic actor. You can't say he's. What's
the point? All right, what's the point if you're improving your skills as a football player and you're still playing for fucking? I'm going to say West Bromwich Albion. What's the point? You're an excellent striker, but you're still playing with a shit team.
With a Johnny No-Mark club.
Yeah. Johnny No-Mark club. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's my wonderful sport reference for the fucking week.
Nice. Again, I will say it again. Please, everybody, tune in for Escape to Victory. It's just going to be fantastic. We're definitely going to have to get help for that one. Would you like to hear Jimmy Caan's reaction to Harry and Walter go to New York?
Yes.
He sacked his management and referred to it as Harry and Walter go down the toilet. So I think that gives us a good sense of what we're
Jimmy Caine. The toilet, Oh, Jimmy Caine, thank you. Any more pull quotes, please? You're just the gift that keeps on giving.
I think Jimmy by the mid-70s, if my memory serves me right, and I'm open to correction here, I think his career by the mid-70s was starting to bottom out a little bit after the glory of the Godfather films. So, glory of the Godfather film.
So he made Thief in 1981. So
I know, yeah, but like that's what I'm saying. Like we're 5 years away from that. Like, that's right. So he's going through a bit of a spell. But anyway, look, we'll hope springs eternal. Maybe this mightn't be too bad. Anything else? Anything else you'd like to add to this?
Nah, we talked too much about it.
Potpourri of chat. Yeah. We're in the middle, as we say, we're in the middle of Caine's mid-70s dross. We had the glory of the man who will be king last time, but we are really in the middle of some real trudgy stuff now. But stay with us. It's always worked. It's not worth watching the movies, but hopefully it's worth listening to us fucking basically go through therapy having watched them,
So if you're happy to hear two grown men slowly go mad over the course of what seems like an eternity of podcasts, this is the place where it might be actually taught in some psychology courses. Somebody might do the dissertation on the long-term effects of watching Michael Caine movies.
Imagine
two dickheads.
Imagine the state of us at the end of the 70s. Oh my God, we're going to look worse than like the Rolling Stones road crew by the end of this.
Yeah, I think we're going to look like fucking Keith Richards' taint.
Stephen, thank you, as always.
Thank you, Mick. And as always, dear listener, and I'm saying singular because let's be realistic.
We know, yeah. I mean, no one tuned in for this one, really, did you? No, and if you did, thanks, but really.
Thanks a lot, but as always, you could follow our various Twitterings on Twitter at Michael Caine 2. Like, subscribe on the podcasting platform of your choice. Leave positive reviews, glowing ones. Maybe include links in your posts to some the kind of help that Mick can get to free self-harming problem. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. Only nice ones, though. Mean comments will make Alfie cry, and no one wants to see that. The Michael Caine podcast is written, researched, and presented by Stephen Black and Michael Foley, and edited by Andrew Foley. Music is composed by Stephen Black. If you'd like to get in touch, you'll find us on Twitter at Mallow News and at Michael Caine 2. And if you enjoyed this episode, you'll find all the rest wherever you get your podcasts. The Michael Caine is a Mallow News 2 Cubes production. See you next time.